What is up, everybody, and welcome to this very, very, very special episode of the Start, Build, Grow Show. As you notice, we are in studio live with two of my favorite people in the roofing industry, and really don't need much of an introduction. You know, I don't know how this even worked. I was able to get my agent to contact their agent, to then contact their people, to then book this about 2 years ago, and we were able to somehow figure out how to buy a little bit of time with Mr. and Miss Paul Reed, which essentially, you know, Paul's kind of been dubbed the godfather of roofing. And then what would that make you, like the matriarch of the roofing industry? But you guys both have an incredible story, incredible journeys, individual and as well as together. You've been an absolute light in our industry. And I've had the pleasure of working with you now for a number of years and building a great relationship. And somehow, some way, we got him on the show today. So we're going to dive right in. Welcome to Start, Build, Grow Show. We're going to put Kim on the spot first.
Oh, boy.
So, Kim, you're, not even self-proclaimed, but kind of a serial entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
You know, you've started many businesses and many of them successful. I'm probably sure there's probably a couple failures in there. But give us a quick story, a quick background on your journey in entrepreneurship, how you got into entrepreneurship, and then maybe how you stumbled into the roofing industry.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for having us, and thanks for the awesome intro. As far as my journey, gosh, it goes back years and years ago. I would say being an entrepreneur basically started with being a single mom, living in fight or flight. You know, being a single mom, you have to do things that most normal people wouldn't do. You got to figure out how to survive. So you're kind of forced into being an entrepreneur. As far as what can you do to make money? How does that work? What does that look like? So that started, you know, probably 25 years ago. I started a glass company, had one of the biggest glass companies in Colorado. And after 9/11 hit, that kind of got shut down. And I went into construction, remained in construction for years and years. Paul and I got married, and I was in a happy, safe, normal, good environment, which allowed my mind to just really open and do incredible things. God had a plan for us to be together. And once we got together, things just kind of opened up from there. I had the opportunity to start NextGen Storm Leads, which took off in my first year. We did over $1 million. And, things just kind of went haywire from there. And so started that. And I was fortunate enough to run that for several years and turn that over to my son, who currently still owns NextGen. And since then, I have opened the Commercial Roofing Academy with Paul. We've been very successful with that. We've had that for about 5 years, and that's been going great. And then through Roofers in Recovery, because Paul and Eric started that, and they mentioned it, wanted to get going on it, and I put all the pieces together, started that company for them. And through Roofers in Recovery, Paul said that he always had a dream of opening sober living houses. Yeah. And so, in the back of our mind, that was always there on what we're going to do. We went to visit his family down in Alamosa, his hometown, and there was a building that was for sale. And through conversation and whatnot, we went and looked at it. The very next day, I made an offer on that building, and they actually took it. And, me with my entrepreneur mind, I'm like, hey, we could totally do something with this building. I'm going to make an offer and see where it goes. So I did. I made them a very offensive offer, thinking there's no way in hell they're going to accept this because they wanted X amount, and I literally cut that in half, and they took it. So from there, I was like, oh my God, we're going to start a rehab center. I've never done this before. Like, what in the world, right? 2 years later, here we are. We brought in a gentleman by the name of Justin Luke Riley, who is my business partner. And we've been very successful with opening what's called a Full-Continuum recovery center. So we have not only a withdrawal management, which is detox, we have an intensive outpatient, and then we have a residential treatment care center as well. So we have doctors, nurses, everything. So I went from glass to roofing to selling leads to now the, treatment center. So we've been very blessed. And then of course, on my off time, my husband has me go sell roofs with him. So it's been fun. It's been a journey. And that's, that's kind of what I do and where we are. And everything I do is because of Paul. He's my foundation, and without him, I couldn't do any of this. And without God, I couldn't do any of this. Yeah. And so that's where everything stems from. And I think just having a partner that I'm best friends with and that, you know, I feel safe to where I could go do anything and he's going to support me, I'm always going to be successful, because when you have that and you have God, you'll never fail. And so that's a little bit about my story and my background.
So incredible. Don't worry, I'll be asking for her autograph after the show. It's so cool to call you guys dear friends and be a part of the journey. And we're going to press into a lot of those things. But before we'll pause. If you need to take a break or the bathroom or do something while you watch this show, go do that now, because then we're going to go ahead and go with Paul. I'm just kidding. All right, Paul, give us your quick little, your background in the entrepreneurial world. Well, Ian, touch on whatever you like, man, because I know your journey culminates really well, and we're going to definitely press into that stuff.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having us here, Randy. It's always an honor to hang out with you as well.
Thank you, man.
So I got into roofing when I was 18 years old by accident. Right? I told the story numerous times. My cousin got arrested. My dad made me go out and work for my cousin that day, putting a roof on. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I wasn't going to be a roofer, right? I intended to be farmer, rancher, truck driver, just like the rest of my family, and ended up in roofing. And here I am, 32 years later. So now I'm just really the old man of the industry anymore. I never thought I'd finally be I'm the old guy. Started my own roofing company after about 3 or 4 years of working with my cousin, kind of the typical story of like, I could do it better, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it was just so much entrepreneurial and it just doesn't work being with this guy. So ran that because of some addiction issues, got out of that, obviously, went to rehab, and then started up here in Denver. And actually, funny story was Kim and I started our own roofing company when we were up here in Denver.
Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's got so many of them. She forgot one.
And that was so good.
Yeah. So, and as crazy as it sounds, we actually, the first month that we opened, we sold over $1 million in roofs the first month.
That's
that we
incredible.
Were open, which is crazy, because that was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a few roofs. That was residential.
That's
right?
a lot of roofs. They're a lot cheaper back then than they are
so
now.
We signed $1 million worth of stuff, and then some. Really kind of got a phone call from Tom Brown, my current partner at Northwest Roofing, and really it turned out it was really kind of a God thing, because there was really no rhyme or reason why I should shut down this company or merge it with Northwest Roofing. Yes, they were established, been around since 1963, on and on, but we were good.
Yeah.
And, I think that's kind of what led us to where we're at today, kind of build a bigger platform or quicker, or whatever you want to look at. So me, man, it's always been about roofing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'd say this all the time and joke about it, but roofing is not a job. It's not a career. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
When you're in the roof, when roofing finds you, you're just kind of there, right?
It's just good at it.
Captivates you, and there's just so many different verticals within roofing that you can go and chase and do, and it's provided. I know for me, it's provided incredible life for not only my family, but the families of all of our employees and the members of our academies. And it's just incredible, blessing to give back to an industry that's blessed us so much,
Listen, I say this all the time. I don't know another industry that you can do what we do.
No.
For the opportunities that we get to create for other people, number one. For an industry, here it is Monday at 2:30. We had to come over to your house, hang out, do this podcast. If I was a banker, that probably couldn't happen.
No, but clock in, clock out, requested off 2 weeks ago, type of thing.
No, it's awesome. Love roofing.
So there's a lot, right? Amazing. Thank you guys for being here. So there's a lot to unpack and press into. So one of the things, we're I think a lot of people, a lot of our members, a lot of people in the industry start their businesses. And I know for my academy, and you guys have Commercial Roofing Academy, have the Roofing Academy, separate, but very, very supportive. I know for you guys as well, we work with a lot of companies that spouses, husband and wife, start companies together. And sometimes it can be incredible, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. So for the younger, newer entrepreneurs out there, from when you started a roofing company together, give us some thoughts on maybe some of the challenges that you had to overcome, to learn, and then how did you figure it out, to be able to work together?
Now that's a great question. And I will take it back to like the very beginning when Kim and I first got together. So that's been since 2010.
Yep.
Do you know the date?
Putting her on the spot. She's like, let me check this.
No,
Yeah, the tattoo,
it's
December 4th,
December 4th. How can I
2010.
forget?
So in our industry, like we're gone a lot. We travel a lot. And there's a huge trust thing when you travel and when you're gone a lot, you go to different events and there's different people there,
Yeah.
you know, and like we're both sober, but there's also a lot of times there's a lot of alcohol flowing. So to me, the number one thing that has led to our success together, and more importantly, like with our marriage, is really just the trust that we have. Because I can't be good at my job. I can't lead other people. I can't be a good owner. I can't be a good sales rep or whatever when I'm out selling, when I have a lot of stuff going on at home. Meaning,
Absolutely.
you know, if my wife is upset at me or I'm upset at her, or she's mad because it's, 7:00 at night and we're at some industry event, with doing business development stuff, and she doesn't trust, like, well, I wonder what he's going to do tonight. If all that stuff is going on behind the scenes, like, I'm never going to be successful. And so
100%.
that's been the key since we first started, because when we first started dating in 2010, I was working in what is still considered, in my opinion, the greatest storm that's ever hit. And that was Arizona, the Phoenix, Arizona storm. So
I remember not going to that one. I regretted it. I'm like, no, why did I not go there?
It's to this day the greatest storm ever. But I was working there, and I would be gone for, just freshly dating and starting, 7 to 10 days, pretty easy. For the first little bit, it was actually like 2 weeks. And then we realized pretty quickly, like
14 days was
Yeah,
our limit.
like-
We've seen each other twice a month, basically,
yeah.
for 5 years.
But at the same time, I'm living in, the house, and there's 10 sales reps there, and like, it wasn't good. And she's back here in Arvada. So just the trust. If I wouldn't have had that with each other, the
Yeah.
mutual trust, we
Yep.
never would have made it through there.
Yeah. I would think too, just kind of correlating my own journey too, because when my wife and I got together, it was in 2009 during that massive storm. And in 2010, instead of going to Arizona, I think I went to Ohio, and then 2 years later ended up in Kansas City, right? During that big, I think you might have
Yeah.
worked out that
Yeah.
big
We
storm.
did. We went to
So,
that one.
and through those couple times, so I think one, being able to do this, like, not only do you have to earn and build that trust, but I think like there's something that strengthens in a relationship when you're forced to not be together all the time, right? I think people, a lot of times you meet somebody, you meet this new person, and then next thing you know, you literally are doing everything all the time, and you're never inseparable. And I feel like people tend to kind of lose a sense of themselves because they get enmeshed in the relationship. So I think for me, not by any intentionality, don't get me wrong, I'm not some expert on this stuff, but I think by default, because my wife lived in Fort Collins when I lived down here, so we were very intentional about the time we got to spend together, and I was traveling and storm chasing. I think it kind of forced us to really connect and get to know each other and build a relationship versus just instantly watching Netflix every single night. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah, because you have to take that time. I mean, the times that Paul was home, it was 100% focus on him. And I had 3 kids and he had kids. And so it was like, listen, I know he's going to be gone for X amount of time, but when he comes home, it's all his time. What am I going to do to make sure that we have a memorable time? It's so important. So it was like dating. It was like a new date every single time. It was pretty cool. But grace, trust, patience, and, just kind of stepping back and thinking, this person's on the road, you're home waiting for them. What can you do when they come home to make sure they know that everything is stable? There's a lot to put into it. So it wasn't easy, but we did it and it worked, and it's the best thing ever.
I think also finding that balance, because when we're on the road a lot, when we get home, like the first thing that you want to do when you get home is actually like have a home cooked meal. Right.
Yeah.
Because like you're eating McDonald's and all that crap on the road.
And I cook.
And Kim.
Not anymore, but I was a damn good cook.
But what I'm saying, so like I've been gone and I get home and like, I just want to be home tonight. But then she's like, I've been home all week and I would like to go somewhere. So finding that balance, I think, of having that communication as well, of going, okay, like we're both in this together. So like, hey, tonight, like, let's go tonight. And then tomorrow, like, let's just be home.
Yeah.
And so understanding that the other person is also sacrificing and just trying to figure out that balance. the communication level of it.
Oh man, I can't. Yeah, I mean, we talk about roofing and sales and got to communicate, but it starts at home.
It does.
Starts at home. I think having that dialogue is probably huge, and it can get. I mean, as roofers, as entrepreneurs, I know, especially early on in your career, like you're all in all the time. It's like if you want to make something happen, the earlier days in it, it's just consumes your life, consumes your mind, consumes everything, and it becomes a little bit. I think a little bit difficult to then be intentional and be able to check this. Turn the switch off and then be, focused on your significant other. And it seems like you both are kind of able to figure that out pretty early.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll ever have it all the way figured out. Right. I think there's times that, just Kim's probably about to poke me right now, but I think there's always times, even though we've been in a relationship, married now 14 years. I mean, it's still something that I'm not always the best at, of the communication level. And you could always
He's
tell.
horrible. Just saying.
It can be at times, right? Definitely can be at times,
I'm
but
teasing.
Don't text Paul or Kim.
right.
Talk to their people.
He's not terrible, but
I'm just kidding.
you forget sometimes because, like you said, Randy, like you get so wrapped up in what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? Like life happens, and you don't always focus on what's important. He comes home, for instance, on a Sunday. Sunday, I'm ready to go. I work from home. So I'm home all day,
Yep.
every day, 10, 12 hours a day. He gets home. He wants dinner and the couch so he can shut his brain down. And Sunday, I'm ready to rock and roll. Well, Sunday's nap time for him. Right?
Or
And
Broncos, depends on the time of year, right?
And so I'm like, Sunday morning, I get up and I'm ready to go. And I have this whole thing planned. And there's days I just look at him and he's like, okay, let me sit down for a minute, right? And I'll run upstairs. I'll go do something. I come back down. He is out.
That
right?
might have happened yesterday.
No,
This is fresh, right? This is a fresh in our
this
mind
is
right now.
fresh. But I'm just saying, that's where I have to be patient, right? And then he wakes up and he's like, oh shit, sorry, I was sleeping. Let's go do something. So yeah, you have to be intentional. You have to think about it. And even after 14 years, we don't take each other for granted. We have to remember those things because we both have been married before. It's easy to just get comfortable and complacent. And that's what ruins a relationship. If you're not focused on like your marriage is as hard as your business. And if you're not putting as much into your marriage and your friendship, you're not going to get anything out of it. Right. It goes hand in hand. And our foundation is what makes everything work within our world. So,
yeah. So how do we do that? How do we find that balance in knowing that, all right, we live together, we work together, our businesses, they're all intertwined. Like, how do we find that balance? How do we know when to like check, like, give me some tips. And I think that we run into this all the time with clients, with people in the industry.
Well,
it's very hard to do.
I'm going to start. I'm proud of my husband because I will say, and this is something everybody can do. You guys, this is really important. Paul literally put on his calendar that every Wednesday night at 5:00, he was going to be home, and that was our date night. And he would plan something really cool for us to go and have date night, and the phones get shut off and everything else gets put aside. And that was that. And we, that was just how it was. No matter what was going on, we were going to do that date night. Right. Or I was going to cook his favorite meal once a week because I knew that, those little things make him happy. Or, just weird little things, just like make little cards and like, okay, open this today. Let's figure out a trip we're going to take, always have something in your mind because although you're married 14 years, you're together, God knows how long, right? You still have to date your spouse. You still have to act like you first met this person and do those fun little things because that's what's going to keep things going.
Yeah.
That's what keeps the friendship happy. That's what keeps the relationship happy. And if you don't do those things, you're just going to fall into the every day is the same day. And then you're going to get bored with each other. And then, it's going to break. And so that's my 2 cents. I don't know. Do you have something to add?
I totally agree with all of that. I think being in roofing in general, we kind of have a type of mental illness per se. We think that we are the most important people in the world. At 9:00 at night, we should be worrying about Mrs. Smith's drip edge. Yeah. Why are we worrying about Mrs. Smith's drip edge at 9:00 at night? Like that's kind of the standard in our industry. At one time, like I worked pretty much from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m., 6 days a week easily. And then on Sunday night from like 5:00 till 10 o'clock every Sunday. That was just what we did because we think it's so damn important. That's not the reality. And so cutting out that time of where, hey, I'm not working, whatever it is. And as an entrepreneur, there's times that it's not a 9-to-5 job, right? More than likely, you're not going to be successful from 9 to 5 for quite a long time in your business, if at all, for some people. But if you are able to get to that point of being intentional of going, hey, my work hours are now from, whatever it is, 7:30 to 5. And that's really kind of what mine are, is like 7:30 to 5. I've got guys in place that are worried about drip edge at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, but I still work with those guys. But it goes to be to the Raving fan stuff. And you've heard me talk about the Raving fan. That's our company, motto of like, hey, we want all our customers to be Raving fans, but it's got to go back to home. Like when I'm at my absolute best is when my wife understands what I'm trying to do and she's encouraging me, cheering me on, supporting me, guiding me, even giving ideas of like, hey, this is, maybe try this or do that. But when things are good at home, like that's when business is really good.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And
Absolutely.
sometimes we'll forget that stuff.
Yeah. No, I try to be intentional. It's a couple of things to unpack, but I try to be intentional with like, training new sales reps or hiring someone new, especially as a sales rep. It's not a 9-to-5. You got to be available for homeowners. You're the first couple of years, especially if you're a heavy hitter, you want to be a heavy hitter. It's all day, every day. It's just what it takes to build up that client base and build up that pipeline. But so often, during my training and onboarding, I'm going to have a discussion with them. Like, how much support do you have at home?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your spouse, significant other resents you, if they're mad that you're staying home late, if they're giving you a hard time and not wanting to, be a part of this, unfortunately, this might not be for you. It's not going to work. Or have a conversation, because yes, it's a time period, but it can be absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
So have that conversation, right? And then like we do trips and bring the spouses and try to bring them involved in everything we do, because we want to get that support. Because I know dang and well, there's no way I would be here today if it weren't for my wife, who is just, I started my business like right after we started dating. I was like, set the tone of like, this is what I got to do. I traveled, did all the things, and I've just had incredible support the whole time. There's no way I would have been able to do it without that, support at home. And I think that's a massive takeaway from this.
Absolutely.
It really is, because like with me at Northwest Roofing, when we first got together, we did really have a vision and a plan of like, because it's kind of odd, like, well, why aren't you just working in Denver? Well, there's not a whole lot of work going on in Denver, so I need to be out here in, wherever, Hutchinson, Kansas for the next 6 months. We're doing this because this is where we're trying to go, because this is what we're going to try to do when we get there. And so there's no way that I would spend the nights that I had gone if I didn't have the support at home and like we had a goal together. So I think it's important to set that goal of here's the goal, here's how we're going to get there, here's the sacrifices that we got to put in.
Yeah, I love that. And it starts with communication and support from each other, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going to shift gears. Challenges.
Oh boy.
So in working so intimately together, like what are some of the big challenges you've had to really work through?
She's bossy, dude, and I'm not a very good employee.
I'm going to say this. I am a bulldozer when it comes to business, and I don't mean to be. And my poor husband, bless his heart, he gives me a lot of grace, because challenges, like I don't stop, and sometimes I don't listen, and I do what I want, and I'm very disgruntled, and like there's no telling me no, because I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to make it work, right? And so that's my downfall, I would say. That's my challenge that I have to overcome. And I've done good. I'm doing better.
I think just being an entrepreneur, that for the most part, I'm not saying this about you, but the most part, as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs, the good ones, don't do this, think they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you just do, like, well, this is my business or blah, blah, like you're the smartest person in the room. It's generally not the case. And so sometimes the challenge that we've had is she's had an idea or I've had an idea, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like that doesn't work, like blah, blah, blah.
She's like, watch me.
Yeah. She's like, watch me.
Right. He's not, I'm a risk taker. He's the logical one. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. So I think just the challenge of sometimes of who's smarter. I think there's always, we're competitive actually as well.
If
very
Paul
competitive.
does something good or wants to start a business, I'm gonna go do it and I'm gonna do it better. And I know that sounds so horrible because I shouldn't be like that with my husband. Because sometimes I sit back and go, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, why am I'm 56 years old. I should not be out here doing this, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're super competitive.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, another challenge as well is when you're the entrepreneur and you're the owner, the way that we've always ran, we're the last ones to get paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That's a challenge. You know, when you're gone and you're doing all these things because you're building for the future, I think that could be a challenge at home because, you know, you set this up and you know, like sometimes storms aren't good.
Yeah. Or you spend a whole bunch of money to find out that they're not good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that suffer, you know,
Yeah.
like, cause we've always, and I know that you do the same thing. We make sure our people are taken care of.
Yeah.
Like there's hundreds of times where we're the very last ones to benefit off of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to be said to, you know, to challenge that a little bit in a sense of when you gain that experience in the success of an entrepreneurship, like starting off, I think it's a mindset of, you know, first in, last to leave, last to get paid. Right.
Yeah.
But I also think that what I've kind of learned through mentorship and through some, you know, I have an incredible like financial mentor that really is like, what we don't understand, there's some takeaways here, I think, because what we don't understand is that's a mentality that a lot of us have. But what happens is when we execute that, we're not operating at our 100%. Because I don't care who you are. If you are worried in the back of your mind whatsoever of, is my car going to get paid? Am I going to pay my house? Can I do, you know, the whatever the challenges are, the financial challenges are in the back of your mind, that whatever that is, it's going to take you off your game. So I think there's, you know, that there's a mix of making sure that you pay yourself first, but pay yourself right. And don't overpay and don't use your damn business as a checking account.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not your cash of buy whatever you want whenever you want as a roofing. And I think so many people do this, like they just use their business as, I'll just buy whatever I want whenever I want. It doesn't work that way. Pay yourself a set amount, adjust your lifestyle to fit that amount. And when times are good, double down and invest in things. And that's when you're able to kind of, you know, really start building wealth. And when times are tough, you've already accounted for that and you now can still survive. But the goal for me is to eliminate that piece of worry about money, right? My goal, I don't have certain financial goals of I need to be X million dollars, blah, 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 blah. No, it's always been as entrepreneurs, like, I don't want to worry about money. Like, I don't want to have a conversation with my kids after church saying, hey, it's not the third Sunday and we can't afford. And I'm not saying this facetiously. I'm not trying to criticize, but like personal experience, like that's some things that we had a very limited budget. And it was, we had one day a week, one day a month, we can go out to dinner. And like, I never want to have that. You know, I never want to worry about money, but I also don't need to live in ridiculous success. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think that's really good advice because through the years, I've watched this industry and, you know, these people that come in, the new people that come in and that start their own businesses, they make those mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. They either do really good or they do really bad. There's no in between. And so that's one thing I always tell people that come into this industry, be very careful because in X amount of time, you're going to have so much money, you know, you're just going to be, wow, but you have to adjust to that because it's not always going to be like that.
Exactly.
You know, and I see people fall time and time again. And then I also see people use that as a reason to pull people in, you know, hey, you can make all this money. Life's going to be great. But then they come in, they're going to all these conferences, they're partying, they're living like rock stars. And then all of a sudden there's no storms and they dry up. And they become addicted or they get in trouble. And so your advice is spot on. Like if you're going to start this and you're doing it, set yourself on a very, very conservative salary that's going to work for you. And if things get great and your people are taken care of, then you can increase what you need.
Exactly.
Right? Because otherwise you're going to set yourself up for failure. I've seen it too many times.
So many times.
Very good advice.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And as I was reading a book, listening to a book now, it's actually called The Psychology of Money. And it's about, and that's where I've really, in my career, I'm like really focused on like wealth building. I'm like, okay, how do I really position in multiple streams and really focus on building wealth, right? And one of the things that they talked about, and many times is we can't freaking predict the future. you don't know when COVID's going to happen. You don't know when no storms are going to happen. You don't know when, our neighborhood burns down. Like, you never know. Like, things happen in the world. You have to like plan for the unexpected. And it's so hard for so many of us to do that. But you just got to know it. It's going to happen. They say a recession happens, average of every like 8 years or so. We're on like a 12-year gap right now without a recession, and quote unquote, people have been talking about it for years, a couple of years, but plan for it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Well, and that's why it's so important to like invest in other things, because if we do get hit with something, a new COVID or whatever, and all of a sudden you're getting older, and, as an entrepreneur, not everybody has a retirement plan like that normal people do, right? And so you better have things diversified to the point where if something does go down, or you get older and you're at retirement age and you don't have that retirement, you have something to count on, right? And that's what we've been able to do, because we looked at each other. I'm in my 50s, Paul's 50, and we're like, we never really saved for this retirement because we've been entrepreneurs, and any excess money that we have, we put that into another business, right? So we've set ourselves up with different businesses and whatnot, so that when we retire, we have other things there. And now that we've been able to make it to that point, we are working on what's going to be our legacy for our massive little army that we've built with our 6 kids and 7 grandkids and more to come. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think, we never know exactly where these conversations are going to go, but I think that's incredibly valuable is, just the age old advice, from Stephen Covey of begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
And be thinking future, think 5-10 years out of where you want your life to be, and take action now to be planning for that in the future. Right. And I think especially in this business, you can kind of catch lightning in a bottle sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can make a lot of money in a short period of time, even though, and a lot of times it's paper money.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my balance sheet, or I sold this many jobs. Like when you look at your actual checking account, where's all the AR? Oh, it's in the AR. It'll come. You think so? Until it doesn't. And then what happens, right? So that's a whole other topic. But again, at the same token, I think for the new, I use the word young too much, because now I'm like the old guy too in the industry, but like new, let's say new, because people come in all the time, all different ages or whatever. But the new entrepreneur and the new owner, the new sales rep that's independent or whatever, it's be thinking this is an opportunity to build a legacy, right? And wealth for yourself, and diversify. So I want to kind of press into that a little, because there's a time to do that and there's a time not to, as we're just advising diversify. But I've also seen a lot of times where roofers catch lightning in the bottle. I did the same thing. And then I think I got Midas touch. You can get Midas's touch, and you all of a sudden are the baddest entrepreneur in the world because you just built a $4 million company in 3 years.
Yep.
And what we don't realize is that can go away real quick.
Yep.
So being that, you guys have diversified, I've started other businesses. When is the right time to do that? Like, give me some advice on, we all do it. A lot of people want to. As your entrepreneur, you start a roofing company, you have some success. So many people out there listening to this, watching this on Facebook, you're like, I started this business. I started this business. None of them are doing anything well. Your roofing company's floundering because you're putting all this energy into something that's not working. Yep. And then you find yourself, oh, I'm telling my story right now because that happened to me, right? But for that new entrepreneur, when is the right time to diversify? We all want to do it, but when is the right time to do that?
JobNimbus is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
From day one, it was just shockingly different.
They did such a great job.
Extremely happy.
I have a salesperson that works 24/7.
We've worked with a lot of different agencies over the years, and I think we found, just like most people in this room probably, that they're extremely frustrating, really annoying. Tim and his company is just light years apart from anybody we've ever experienced.
So to me, it's going to be different probably than what Kim's going to say, because she's a bigger risk taker than I am.
Yeah.
I believe in making sure that my main #1 business, right, that got me there, got me to the point to where I could even think about diversifying, is 100% on point. Not just, we just caught lightning in a bottle and sold a good job, and so I have an extra, $300,000 in my pocket, or whatever that number could be from people. Because I look back, the very beginning when I started, when I got to Denver in 2007 out of rehab, there was really 10 companies. There was 10 companies that were kind of dominating the scene, that you'd go to the neighborhood and they had hundreds of jobs signed up. And pretty quickly, within a couple of years, out of those 10 companies they were doing 2,000 to 3,000 roofs a year here in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 10 companies, there's only 3 of them that were still alive like 3 years after that, like in 2010. And that, to me, that was scary, because I knew some of those guys, and I knew that, one of them had went over here and he started this or he started that, some of them may have been successful, but the roofing company was gone. So my advice is not until I'm sustainable, where I'm looking at no matter what, like, yes, I'm doing 20 million this year. I know that like everything's good. If I drop all the way down to 7-8 million because of storm cycles or whatever my, deal is, that company's still going to be good, and I'm going to be good because I'm getting a salary of, X over here. So to me, not until my number one business is running, and just without me having to be there.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
The main thing.
Yeah.
That's what got me on this vessel.
What got you? Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
That's who I took to the prom.
Yep.
I'm going to go home with that lady at the prom. During the prom, I'm going to go dance with a few other whatever. But I got there with her. I'm going home with her.
Yeah. Take care of the mothership, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Really?
Yeah. However, I would say, once you're sustainable and you are able to sit back and see that, your employees everybody's in place, everything's being paid, you're not having struggles anywhere, and you're sustainable, then take the risk. If you're finding that you have extra time, or, you have your savings looks good and the company looks okay, why not take the risk? You're not going to fail. I mean, things are in place, right? So the only way that you're going to know is if you jump. And that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
And I have failed miserably, and it was embarrassing. I mean, of all things, I went and bought a tanning salon right in the middle of COVID. Like, who would do something like that? But it was something, well, right. Well,
Can read book.
Yeah, that's right. And it was great. I mean, I was able to sell it, thank God, but I sold it for what I bought it for, but I lost money during the, so I didn't even really break even. I did lose money, and it was a great place. I enjoyed it, but I was not ready. I kept finding myself going back to my other business because it was needed there.
Yep.
Right. So I'm saying this from my advice. Like, if I would have waited and just spent more time and made sure my business was more stable before I jumped off somewhere, that thing probably would have been successful.
Absolutely.
But I lost my ass. So.
Well, there's something that you mentioned there I think is really, really key. And it's an observation of, getting to know you over the last, handful of years is you mentioned once you have your people in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just natural for you. Like, oh, I just start a business, put people in place, and it comes natural for you because you have like that magnetic type of, charismatic type of leadership ability to kind of bring great people in, empower them, give them the tools, guide them, vision, and let them go. And that's something that I think, one, there's just God-given, but there's also some intentionality there. And that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is they feel like they have this God complex. They feel like they have to do everything. Or maybe it's just fear of they're afraid of letting somebody else be smarter than them or be better than them or be able to do that job better than they can. So we got to humble ourselves as entrepreneurs. And I think that's one of the things that the takeaway I would take from that comment, as well as my own interpretation of it, is, and how I got to a place where we're sitting here hanging out on Monday afternoon talking about business when we're, I don't know, between you and I, how many roofs we got going this week? 30, like a lot of roofs, but we're here hanging out doing this because we're not the smartest guy in the room.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, we could have some cool conversations, but we've surrounded ourselves with really good people, and we've empowered them and allowed them to thrive, pay them well, give them the tools, give them autonomy. And that's the key to all of this, I believe.
It is your people. You got to have your people in place, and they'll run it for you,
And it's humbling sometimes to have to sit in a meeting with your own people and go, that's a really good idea, and that's what we should do. What I thought about was probably not the brightest idea. That's humbling, but when you are able to get to that point and you entrust them to be able to do that and you see it work, it's a lot easier to go out at that point. And I think the other thing that helps is making sure that you're not greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Making sure that you're you're not the only one winning. Like everybody's got to win in your company.
Yep.
You know, I have guys that work for me now that own 2 homes, right? Like I own 2 homes. They now own 2 homes. They've got 3 or 4 vehicles, right? And I'm not talking like they shouldn't have bought them, like they could afford to buy them, right? And to see that, and it helps bring up other people as well.
Absolutely.
Well, and the reward for me in that too is, you know, I just like some of my people down in Alamosa that I've brought in, I give them everything I possibly can to make them succeed and to watch them grow. It's just so magnetic, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my inspiration to see what I can do for them. And then that spreads throughout the company. So again, just putting the right people in place just makes a heck of a difference.
I love that you mentioned that, because like, if I were to be like press into like, what is your greatest achievements, and how do you define success? And I think you can relate to this, but like when, I think this is one of my God-given strengths, and I press into it, is my ability to see in others what they don't see in themselves, and to be able to empower somebody and give them an opportunity and watch and see them thrive.
It's awesome.
It's such a cool feeling. Like there's no dollar amount that you can, there's no investment, there's no roof that you could sell that gives you that like same like sense of like accomplishment. Then like I hired this person who didn't realize that they were smarter and better than me. And then all of a sudden they've evolved and flourished into like an asset that's just incredible, buying houses, buying cars, like, living their life, going on vacations and doing things that you're just like, wow, like that's all because
you gave me the opportunity.
Somehow, some way I was able to give someone an opportunity and they thrive. That's so cool.
I see, to me, seeing people like knowing you, Randy, one of your biggest wins is probably seeing the success of your people.
Oh yeah.
Because for the most part, and even in a lot of businesses that Kim have, the people that are coming into our operations, they're never on a winning streak, right? Like the people that come into roofing, they're not in a winning streak in life, like 99% of them. You on occasion will get a person that's, has a really good job that comes into roofing, but for the most part, most people are not on winning streaks. And so when they get in and we see that when they get to come in and we empower them and they get to do these different things, the reward is massive for me. Like I've been there, I've done that. And you kind of get to that point of, it doesn't matter anymore for us. My biggest reward now is seeing our people succeed. And now like my favorite thing to do is providing opportunity and experiences for people.
Yeah.
Like we get to go to the NBA finals, brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Can you imagine like saying 20 years ago?
Yeah, I sat. I don't want to talk about how many floor seats I went to during the playoffs. It was incredible. Like it was so cool. But
20 years ago, like the only way you were getting in that building is if you were on the maintenance crew. You were sweeping the floors. Yeah. That was the only way.
Or your head's banging against the back and
on the top row with the bloody nose.
Yeah.
But now we get to provide that opportunity to people. Like that's what entrepreneurship is about. When you could get to that point when it's the people are more important.
Yeah.
The experience that you get to provide them.
Yeah. I mean, and the trips, and I'm gonna get off on this, just fun stuff to talk about at this point, because when you take people, we took our whole team to Costa Rica, and like a number of them had literally never been on a trip like that before. That's cool to be able to provide that sort of experience, and like with no worries in the world, just go do whatever you want to do, have fun, enjoy yourself, and don't worry about the cost. Like that's an incredible feeling to be able to do that. And that's what roofing can do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Paul can speak to that. I mean, how many years have you guys been doing that? And I mean, not just 10 people, you're talking 40 people.
Oh yeah.
We take 40 or 50 people, the spouses. And it kind of drives Kim crazy, but we go to the same exact place every single year.
I'm not a creature of habit.
No, me neither. I need a new experience.
I will tell you why. It sucks for Tom and I because we go there every single year and you get, it's the same thing, but we know the experience is going to be on point. We know it's 5-star because there's generally 10 people roughly that have never even been out of the country.
Yep.
It's a big deal. They got to get a passport and they're taking their wife and like all these things. It's awesome. We love it.
Yeah. No, it's been really cool to watch them be able to do that and kind of sit back and just watch the employees, and the people they bring. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it changes their life. Right. And so it just everything we do and being able to change for others. And of course, the coolest thing for me in all of this is that I was able to give this to my kids, and so was Paul, right? Everything we do has been passed to them, and not give it to them. We've made them work their asses off, and they're still in the process. And it's not like given, but
Sure.
they will.
Opportunity is there.
Thank you. And they will inherit it, you know, down the road. And rightfully so, because they all are very hard workers. We've been very blessed with that. So
I see it. Like yesterday, you guys had a barbecue for the whole company.
Yes,
I
I've
seen
seen
that, and I
that.
was like, that is awesome.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had crews there and families of the crews.
awesome.
Like, I mean, that was cool. You know, a lot of times we've just done, just the staff and the sales team, whatever, but like, no, like the crews, get the service tech, get the solar team. Like, you know, that was, our team's probably, if we had everybody, it'd probably been double that picture, you know, which is cool. It's crazy. And I like just yesterday, like, you know, like, oh, you want to say a couple words of cutting the cake or whatever. And I'm just like, as I look around, I'm like, holy crap. Like,
it's so
could have
cool.
never, it's like you get emotional thinking like the hair stands up like, whoa, all these people work for my dumbass. You know what I mean? It's like, how does that happen? Like, how does that even happen? But it's just like overwhelmed with gratitude, right?
Yeah.
So we've gone all over the place, and I think there's been some incredible conversation. But I definitely want to, you know, press in because we've all been through a lot of challenges in life. Like we're talking about the fun stuff and the rewards, you know, but there's been some major challenges. I've been through major challenges. I know you've been through some major challenges. And Paul, you've shared your story a lot. Every time I speak with you, every time I, you know, travel with you, you live and share your story. You've turned it into a testimony, which you talked about earlier in the beginning of the show. But you just recently, you know, launched an inpatient facility for rehab. So I definitely cannot wind the show down without pressing into that. Let's hit me with, you know, from the entrepreneurial journey, maybe some of the challenges, and kind of walk me through like how all that like happened and how we can get involved. I know you got a cool event coming up. It might be too soon before this comes out, but we'll talk about it anyways. Either way, I know you do it a couple times a year, and we like always support it as well. So, you know, press in. This is a Roofers in Recovery moment, man.
Well, to me, none of this happens without Kim, number one, of saying like, hey, if that's something you want to do, like I'm all in. Someone sent me to rehab 17 years ago, right? Between my family and different scholarships and different things, because $30,000 to get me to rehab 17 years ago. And the only way I got in was because people gave back, right? People invested into me, did all these things. And so once I got sober and, you know, got some time under my belt and was, you know, able to raise my head up a little bit, you know, I always had a sincere passion to like give back and to help another person, because I would not be where I'm at today without massive help from a ton of people. And so our intention was, I would always tell Kim, like, hey, we're doing this, we're working for this, we're going to get to here, and we're going to buy some sober living houses. Like, that's just where we wanted to go.
Yeah.
And Kim was like all in. She's like, let's do it. And so we were right in the process of buying some sober living houses back where I'm from, rural community in Southern Colorado. We came across that facility, and my wife, that has no experience in rehabs or any of those type of things, goes, if this is what you want to do, like, I'm all in.
I'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen. Right. She's a bulldog.
Kim's famous words.
Yes, I'll make it happen.
In this context, we can't use one of my favorite quotes, hold my beer. And it's a different one than that, but she's just like, she's like, hold my purse.
So, I mean,
hold the product. Let's go.
It's pretty much like, let's open a rehab, not knowing anything about, like, besides the fact that I went to rehab and what happens at a rehab for 30 days, but all the inner workings. So Dave spent a couple of years putting that all together. And it's pretty amazing because, you know, obviously there has to be a for-profit eventually, right, to keep it open. And we dump a lot of things into that to make all that happen. But it's a business as well. And so they've had to navigate and learn and, you know, bring in different people and different partnerships. Yeah. And like there's state licenses. And all of a sudden, like, wait, we have to hire nurses, and we actually have to hire a medical doctor.
Yeah.
You know, like there's all these.
Don't they make more money than I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in
Maybe not. Oh wait a minute. We're dumbasses.
Yeah. So that's what they've done, but we've made sure to keep it to where anyone could go in. And Kim could talk a lot more about that, but anyone could go in. You don't have to have $10,000 or $30,000. Like, whoever needs to be in is in.
So I want to give this, you mentioned Roofers in Recovery, and I want to give Roofers in Recovery that time, because none of this would have been possible without Roofers in Recovery. Roofer Day is coming up August 10th. And that is the biggest event of the year for Roofers in Recovery. Everybody donates the proceeds from a roof, 1, 2, however many you guys want to donate. But
pay your material, pay your crew.
Yeah.
Don't pay the commission to the sales rep.
And sign up, because here's the thing, like, we started Roofers in Recovery, 4 or 5 years ago. And when one of your people needs recovery, we put them in. We don't ask you for money because we just don't. Like, that's, we're trying to make a difference and we're trying to help, but we need your help, right? And so part of having this facility is we have been paying a partner of ours that has facilities all over the United States. We've been paying for all these roofers to go into their facility. And so that is why we said, you know what, we have the opportunity with this building to have our own. And so this is going to be our sister company to Roofers in Recovery. And it's going to be dedicated first and foremost to the roofing industry, because this industry needs their own rehab facility, right? With all the people in the roofing industry, like, we need something like this. And so it's been hard. Yes. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have several different lines of care. We are checked by the state every month. They come in, they check our facility, and my butt is on the line. I carry every single one of the licenses at our facility. And, so it's been a huge undertaking, but it's there for this industry. So
So I will put out a challenge out there. And from us, when you guys first started, I remember when you first started, and it was always very close to my heart, and we could share some of that. Like, there's my partners, significant people in my organization, my family, that have all gone through it. And I think the reality of it is every single person watching this has been affected one way or another by some sort of abuse, some sort of substance abuse or other types of abuse. Right. And in this industry, it is rampant. It's everywhere. And, so for us as a company, like, when we started the company, one of my core missions was always to give back. I was just, my parents from the ministry growing up, and it was always just, we always just gave back. I remember going to the soup kitchen when I was a little kid and, like, helping, serve food and do those things. So I've always been that's always been a part of who I am. Thanks, mom and dad. Right. And starting my business, I was like, this is going to be one of the things. So pretty much from day one, we were always like, hey, $100 for every roof we do, we're going to donate somewhere. We've gone through a lot of different stipulations, a lot of different, like, organizations, and we've landed with you guys. And that's one of the things that one of our primary, that and another one are our primary, nonprofit organizations that we want to support. But I would challenge every roofer out there, like, do not worry about, oh no, if I'm going to donate money, that's coming out of my bottom. No, forget that crap, because, we should be focused on giving back first and foremost. And it comes back tenfold in blessings out all different facets, right? So my challenge for every roofer out there is not only to, go back to your companies and make giving back a part of the component of your business, but look into Roofers in Recovery, because not only does it impact every single one of us, it impacts our industry tremendously, and we know that's going to a good cause. It's there's some causes out there. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but if you look at their public records and numbers, it's like, it makes me sick to know how much actually goes back to the cause versus what goes to the organization. Right. Yeah. And I think, what you guys do is just incredible. So my challenge is not only to participate in Roofers in Recovery Day, which is August 10th, right? August 10th. Which is coming up soon. And if regardless, do your own Roofers in Recovery Day, whether you miss it or not, depending on what time you're watching this. Right. They do it a couple times a year, but take a roof, take all the proceeds from that roof, all the profit from that roof, and give it. And then what I also challenge you to do is look at every single project you do and take a little bit of money away and give it to an organization, Roofers in Recovery or not. Like, I don't want to be, I'm a little biased, but I don't want to be too biased here, because just giving back in general, I think it's our responsibility. It's our God-given responsibility as entrepreneurs, as owners, as leaders, and as human beings. It's just our responsibility. So I challenge you, if you're not already doing that, to go ahead and do that and incorporate that.
I love that. Randy's always been our number one
I was
supporter.
just going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be your top. Like,
you are.
top.
You know what? You have
You've
been
always
the
had
biggest
that.
supporter, and month after month, like, you support everything we do, and it's really made a difference for Roofers in Recovery. So
thank you
very
It's
much.
my pleasure.
And to the business owners out there, or even if you're a rep, like Randy mentioned, you are all suffering some shape or form. You may not know it yet, but I promise you there's somebody in your world that is going through it or has been through it or whatever. And we would just really challenge you guys to give back, to make a difference. If you even look at it as a business opportunity, there's people that are with you right now. If you invested into them a small amount, it's going to come back tenfold, just in the business side.
Yep.
Right. And that's the minimal part. The minimal part of giving back is what you would receive monetarily. Right.
Yeah.
But looking into it, because we are a legitimate 501c3,
Yes,
it is a tax write-off, all of those different things. We always need your help, man. It's not cheap to do. The facility that we had partnered with, that was $15,000. Number one.
Per person.
$15,000
Every
per
single
person.
time.
And I want to be transparent with the fact that not everybody's going to succeed once you send them, right? Like there's a lot more work. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we do line them up and say, hey, do this, and do this. And, the reality is 50% of them maybe are going to do that and be okay today. But just think about the lives that we get to change with those 50% of the people. The lives that, if like we literally break generational curses because of this one person, right, that we get to help, that we get to put to rehab, and that they get to change and they get to affect their kids' lives, and their families' lives because they made a difference because you helped out by helping them send to this program.
I've seen it happen firsthand multiple times. It's incredible.
And I just want to say one last thing. As far as addiction recovery, we have every single line of service. So not only do we have the Roofers in Recovery, Paul does sober meetings every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
Thursday AMs.
Say again?
Thursday AM at 6 a.m. as well.
Perfect. Online. These are all online. We also, like I said, like we talked about, we have our rehab, but we have telehealth coming. So you can be anywhere in the country. And if you need intensive outpatient therapy, we can cater to that as well. It doesn't matter where you're at. And if you feel like you need to do the residential, like we'll bring you to our facility. So everybody knows somebody in addiction, and we're here for it, guys. I mean, that's, what God put in front of us was to give back. And so utilize what we have to offer everybody.
I can't think of a better way to wrap this thing up. It's been, this is a long time coming. Paul, you had done this a couple of times. Can't track her down. That was difficult.
She's shy. Most people don't realize she's shy.
Yeah. So am I one of the very few that's ever actually interviewed you?
You're only the second one. So I've never done on camera ever. John Dye actually did
that John Dye.
Yeah, right.
I'll get you.
He did his first podcast with me, but I don't even remember. Like, I think it was just, I don't know where he put it. So it was so this is my
love
first
it. John and I have collaborated on a ton of different
this
things.
is like my big, my big debut.
There it is. Well, we're going to break the internet with this one. Hey, for those of you watching, listening to this, we have had hundreds of episodes like this with amazing people that love what they do, that share their knowledge, and you get to tune in for free. So you might as well click the button to subscribe if you're on whatever, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is. Click that button to subscribe to the podcast. YouTube and Facebook, we put out the video. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Check out Roofers in Recovery, rooferinrecovery.org or .com.
Both.
Yeah,
Both. They own both.
.org.
Roofers in Recovery. Just search that out.
.org.
You can look up Paul and Kim all over social medias. Myself, you know where to find us. Start Build Grow Show, the Roofing Academy, the commercialroofingacademy.com, as well as pretty much all over the internet. So appreciate you. Take care, everybody. God bless.